Kenny Pickett didn't become Ben Roethlisberger's successor with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Instead, he was traded after only 2 seasons with them. It was a misfire on the Steelers' part, and Terry Bradshaw recently put a lot of blame on the team for Pickett's failure. Former NFL linebacker LeVar Arrington thinks Bradshaw hit the nail on the head with his analysis. He's getting a little older, but what he said was clear. Arrington said recently on his Two Pros and a Cup of Joe podcast. I'll say that. It's not a sentiment to really disagree with. What are you going to say to disagree with the fact that what did you really do to 1. Develop Kenny Pickett, 2. Put in front of him the opportunities to have success, and 3. If it wasn't going to be him, what was your contingency plans upon not using him? Coming out of college, Pickett didn't have many elite traits that projected him as an elite NFL quarterback. The 2022 draft class lacked top-tier talent at quarterback. The Steelers overdrafted Pickett, and that likely contributed to his struggles. As a first-round pick, the expectations placed on Pickett were greater, but the Steelers didn't do him many favors, either. They threw him into Matt Canada's putrid offense, and the lack of talent surrounding him didn't help, either. Pickett's weapons in Pittsburgh weren't terrible, but they also weren't great. During his rookie year, Deontay Johnson was his top receiver, with rookie George Pickens flashing at times as well. However, the Steelers didn't have much else at wideout. Pat Freiermuth and Najee Harris were both also fine offensive weapons, but they weren't anything special. The Steelers' greatest failure with Pickett, however, might have been the offensive line they put him behind. In 2022, the Steelers' starting offensive line consisted of Dan Moore Jr., Kevin Dotson, Mason Cole, James Daniels, and Chukwuma Okorafor. That isn't a star-studded line, and Pickett was sacked 27 times in 13 games. The Steelers didn't put Pickett in an environment to succeed. Their offense was extremely young when they drafted him, and they lacked proper leadership. Perhaps Pickett would have thrived in a more stable situation. However, it can also be true that some of Pickett's struggles were his own fault. He's not a perfect player. Last year, he was with the Philadelphia Eagles, who had arguably the most talented roster in the NFL. In the 2 games he actually played, Pickett didn't look much improved. He threw for 286 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Both games were basically more of the same. Bradshaw and Arrington have a point, but Pickett isn't blameless in his lack of development, although he has a chance to change that this year. If he wins the starting job with the Cleveland Browns, he could prove his doubters wrong. It's a long shot, but Pickett's NFL career isn't over yet. It's been an eventful offseason for the Pittsburgh Steelers, to say the least. One could make the argument that the most crucial decision, which involves superstar pass rusher T.J. Watt, has yet to be resolved. Watt currently has 1 year left remaining on his contract, and is hoping to strike a potentially massive deal to make him the NFL's highest-paid defensive player. He held out from the Steelers' mandatory minicamp last month amid contract negotiations. Watt also skipped voluntary OTAs earlier this offseason. In 2021, he reported a training camp but refused to practice, a strategy known as a hold-in, until a deal was reached just days before the season started. According to Steelers insider Ray Fittipaldo, he's expecting another similar situation as Watt aims to secure a long-term contract. I wouldn't be surprised if he's a no-show, Fittipaldo said. We haven't heard yet from TJ's camp what the plans are, but all the big stars who had contract issues sat out of minicamp. I think we might see the same thing again in training camp, Fittipaldo added. This year has different circumstances, with Myles Garrett and Max Crosby eclipsing Watt's contract from a financial standpoint after signing earlier in the offseason. If the stalemate continues, negotiations could get even more difficult if the Steelers wait too long and allow Micah Parsons or Trey Hendrickson to hit on a huge deal. As more pass rushers land large contracts, Watt's leverage likely increases given his caliber. He knows he's worth a similar price to the NFL's best, even at age 30. I don't think that panic button. You might want to get it close if it's a week before the season and TJ is still holding out and there's no communication, Fittipaldo said. But as long as the lines of communication are open and they're still negotiating and things aren't very bitter between the two parties, I think we'll be fine. The Pittsburgh Steelers aggressively addressed several roster needs this offseason. So, why would they stop now with one last glaring hole on the roster? Trading Minkah Fitzpatrick left them thin at safety, and free agent Justin Simmons might be the perfect fit. He spoke to the media recently about his experience with the Denver Broncos and his one-year stop in Atlanta last season, and described his goals for 2025 as he remains and signed months after his one-year contract with the Falcons expired. "I think Atlanta I would still pick 10 out of 10 times if I was in the same spot last year," Simmons told Sean Keeler of the Denver Post. "But in terms of where I'm at now, I'm being a little bit more picky where we want to go and where we want to call home the next 2 years, a year, whatever it is, but a contender is number one on the list right now." It sounds like he enjoyed his experience with Raheem Morris and the Falcons, so he would probably fit right in with Mike Tomlin and his similar coaching style. But does Simmons view the Steelers as a contender? The additions of Aaron Rodgers, DK Metcalf, Darius Slay, Jalen Ramsey, and Jonnu Smith send a clear message to the rest of the league that they are serious about winning now. Simmons might view himself as the missing piece on their defense. While Juan Thornhill and Deshaun Elliott are capable of playing free safety at times, it's a big drop-off in talent from Fitzpatrick. Simmons has primarily played free safety for the past 7 seasons with 4 second-team All-Pro and 2 Pro Bowl selections. Simmons is turning 32 in a few months and coming off a down year statistically with the Falcons. He had just 2 interceptions and 7 passes defensed in his worst statistical season since 2017. Here is an interception he made against Patrick Mahomes last season with the Falcons. The Falcons gave Simmons a 1-year, $7.5 million fully guaranteed contract last season while coming off a Pro Bowl and All-Pro season in 2023, so he shouldn't be too expensive after a down year in 2024. The Steelers shouldn't have any issues affording him even with an extension for TJ Watt on the horizon. Simmons has waited patiently for the right opportunity, and Pittsburgh just might be the one he's been waiting for.